A man tries to steal a royal guard's hat, but he never expected this to happen. Buckingham Palace is always buzzing with tourists, and today is no exception. The vast courtyard in front of the palace is packed with visitors, all eager to catch a glimpse of the iconic royal guards standing at their posts. Their crimson uniforms gleam in the afternoon sun, their towering bearskin hats adding an air of authority and tradition that captivates the onlookers. Some visitors come for the history, marveling at the centuries-old tradition of the British monarchy. Others are here for the changing of the guard, cameras at the ready to capture the precise and disciplined movements of the soldiers. But among the usual mix of history buffs, families, and excited tourists, one man stands out for the wrong reasons. Chris, a cocky 28-year-old from out of town, isn't interested in history. He's here for attention. His sunglasses sit perched lazily on his nose, and a smug grin spreads across his face as he nudges his friend, Jake, standing beside him. "Dude, I swear, I could totally grab one of their hats. They're just actors, right?" Chris whispers, his voice carrying just enough for a few nearby tourists to hear. Jake, clearly nervous, shakes his head. "Man, don't even think about it. These guys are serious. You've seen the videos, people try to mess with them, and it never ends well." Chris scoffs, glancing at the nearest royal guard standing just a few feet away. The soldier is a fortress of discipline, eyes locked straight ahead, rifle held with perfect precision. His expression is unreadable, his stance unwavering. To Chris, it looks like an easy target. "Come on, dude," Chris continues, laughing. "It's just a hat. What are they gonna do? Yell at me?" Nearby, a young woman in a floral dress overhears their conversation. She shoots Chris a disapproving look but says nothing. Instead, she lifts her phone and presses record. Chris takes a step forward, weaving through the crowd, his heart pounding with excitement. For the moment, no one stops him. Chris moves closer and closer, stepping past the last row of tourists until he's only inches away from the motionless royal guard. The crowd around him watches in growing curiosity. Some people think he's just another tourist getting a close-up photo. Others, especially those who overheard his plan, begin whispering to one another. A mother pulls her child closer. An elderly man with a veteran's badge on his jacket watches silently, his eyes narrowing. He knows what's about to happen, and he also knows it won't end well for the young man. Chris grins. He waves his hand right in front of the soldier's face, nothing. He makes a goofy expression, sticking out his tongue, waiting for any reaction, still nothing. The guard remains as still as stone, unshaken. Chris snaps his fingers inches from the soldier's nose, then chuckles. "Damn! They train you guys well, huh?" A few tourists giggle nervously, unsure if they should be entertained or concerned. Jake, standing behind Chris, looks increasingly uncomfortable. "Dude, you're pushing it," he mutters. Chris ignores him. He takes things further. Lifting his hands, he mimics the soldier's stance, standing tall with a fake serious expression. He salutes sarcastically, then marches in an exaggerated fashion, mocking the precision of the guards. This time, more people notice. Cameras start turning toward him. Some tourists laugh, while others begin to frown. A security officer in a black suit, positioned near the entrance to Buckingham Palace, notices the disturbance. His eyes lock onto Chris, studying his movements carefully. Jake sees the officer and tugs on Chris's sleeve. "Bro. Seriously. Stop. "You're gonna get kicked out." But Chris isn't stopping. He loves the attention. That's when he takes it too far. He steps even closer to the royal guard, dangerously close. The crowd goes silent. "No way. He's actually going for it," a woman whispers. Chris lifts his hand, fingers inches away from the towering bearskin hat. Jake's heart pounds. The security officer takes a step forward. And then Chris lunges forward, reaching for the hat. The crowd gasps. A child in the front row tugs on his mother's sleeve, pointing at the scene unfolding. At the exact moment Chris's fingertips brush against the fur of the royal guard's hat, a thunderous boom erupts through the air. For a split second, time seems to freeze. Chris's fingers graze the fur of the royal guard's bearskin hat, and in that instant, he realizes he's made a mistake. The crowd holds its breath. A young tourist gasps loudly, gripping their phone tighter, recording every moment. A mother, holding the hand of her child, pulls them closer and whispers, "Oh no, he just crossed the line." Chris, still laughing, starts to pull back his hand, thinking he's gotten away with it. But then, the entire atmosphere shifts. The guard moves. In a blur of motion, he steps forward with terrifying precision, his polished boots striking the ground with a forceful stomp. His rifle slams down against the pavement, sending a shockwave of sound through the air, a deep, thunderous boom that echoes across the courtyard. And then a voice explodes through the silence. Black exclamation mark, "Stand back." The sheer power of the command makes Chris's heart skip a beat. The force in the guard's voice is unlike anything he has ever heard. It's not just loud, it's authoritative, absolute, undeniable. The weight of centuries of discipline, military tradition, and pure authority radiates from the soldier's stance. Chris stumbles backward, tripping over his own feet, nearly falling onto the stone pavement. The crowd erupts in reactions, gasps, cheers, and nervous laughter. Some people clap, others point at Chris, shaking their heads. One voice from the crowd shouts, "That's what you get." A woman filming with her phone chuckles, "This is going straight to the internet." Jake, standing in the background, looks like he wants to disappear into the pavement. But before Chris can fully process what just happened, things take a turn for the worse. Chris's legs feel weak as he regains his balance, his heartbeat thundering in his chest. He stares at the royal guard, expecting him to move back into position, expecting this to all be over. But it's not. The guard doesn't move back. He stands tall, rifle gripped firmly, his eyes locked forward like an unstoppable force of nature. The tension in the air is palpable. The crowd is no longer just entertained, they're captivated, waiting to see what happens next. And then, Chris hears it. Footsteps. Not from the guard. From somewhere behind him. Chris turns his head just in time to see them. Two palace security officers, dressed in dark suits, moving swiftly toward him. Chris freezes. OSHT. Jake sees them too and immediately backs away, pretending not to know Chris. The officers move with military efficiency, their eyes locked on Chris with unshakable focus. One of them reaches for his radio, speaking into it in a controlled but firm voice. "Megaphone, we have an individual interfering with the royal guard. Moving to detain." Chris knows he messed up. He turns, instinct kicking in, ready to run. But he doesn't get the chance. A firm hand grips his wrist, twisting it behind his back with professional speed. Chris lets out a sharp gasp. Hey! Hey! It was just a joke," he stammers, his voice cracking slightly. But the security officer isn't amused. His voice is low and firm. "Absolute. Megaphone, you just interfered with the King's Guard. That is not a joke." Chris struggles slightly, but the officer tightens his grip, ensuring he doesn't escape. The crowd erupts into a mix of reactions. Some tourists cheer. Others shake their heads in disapproval. "Megaphone, you messed with the wrong people, mate," a man with a British accent calls out. "Megaphone, should have just taken a selfie and left." Another chuckles. Chris's face burns with embarrassment. The reality of the situation sinks in. This isn't just a funny prank anymore. This isn't a YouTube stunt. This is real. And now, he's in serious trouble. The second officer moves in, placing a firm hand on Chris's shoulder. "Megaphone, you will be removed from the premises immediately. If necessary, further action will be taken." Chris swallows hard. Wait, come on, guys. It was just a joke." No response. The guards escort him swiftly, walking him toward the gated security area near the palace entrance. His heart pounds harder with each step. Jake, still standing in the crowd, watches in horrified amusement. But Chris doesn't see the worst part coming. Dozens of tourists have their phones up, recording every second. Within hours, this moment will be everywhere. Chris realizes, with a sinking feeling, his reputation is about to be destroyed. And as the Royal Guard resumes his stance, unmoved, unaffected, unshaken, Chris understands the harshest lesson of all. Some people you just don't mess with. Chris stumbles as the officers tighten their grip on his arms, dragging him through the crowd. His cocky attitude is long gone, replaced by panic. He glances around desperately, but there's nowhere to go. "Megaphone, let me go, man. I didn't even touch the guy. It was a joke." But the officers ignore him, their grip unwavering as they continue leading him away from the scene. The crowd erupts into reactions. "Megaphone, good riddance." "Megaphone, what did you think was gonna happen?" "Megaphone, dude. You messed with a soldier, of course they arrested you." Chris cringes, realizing the entire world is watching. Phones are raised high, cameras rolling. Some tourists are already live streaming the moment, and he knows this will be all over social media within hours. As he is marched toward the security area near the palace entrance, he spots Jake in the crowd. "Megaphone, Jake. Help me out, bro," Chris calls, his voice almost pleading. Jake, still recording, takes a step back. "Megaphone, nah. Man. You're on your own," Jake mutters, shaking his head. Chris feels a wave of betrayal. But deep down, he knows he brought this on himself. The Royal Guard, meanwhile, has already returned to position, completely unfazed. For him, this was just another distraction. Another day on duty. For Chris? This is the worst day of his life. Hours later, Chris is released with a strict warning from authorities. "Megaphone, if you interfere with the Royal Guard again, there will be legal consequences," an officer tells him firmly. Chris, still rattled, nods silently.